Does regular exercise actually help you to overcome your long-term insomnia or sleep problems? In today's video, we're going to debunk this myth about exercise and whether or not it's even helpful for overcoming sleep problems, insomnia, and so on. Now, I'm sure that if you have ever done research on what might help you, you would have seen this tip several times. This is one of the most commonly suggested tip or advice in relation to sleep problems is doing regular exercise. Often it's actually recommended to do exercise in the evening to tire yourself out. Sometimes it's recommended to do very particular type of exercise, but there's many different ways this tip is actually recommended in so many different places. But one of the things I've seen is that the way you even decide whether or not this is something that needs to be put in place for you will be based on your experience. So this is what we're really going to look at in today's video, and I'm going to give you a couple of different examples of how you can even answer this question for yourself. Now, in my practice, this is something that I talk about all the time. A lot of the clients come to me with long-term insomnia problems, long-term sleep problems, and they often tried and tested a lot of different things before they get to me. And regular exercise is probably one of those things that most people have put in place, but may not have seen a consistent result out of it. Now, before we jump into the context of today's video, I wanted to welcome you back if you're part of my community already, whether that's on YouTube or part of my email community. Thank you so much for continuing to learn from me. 2024 is actually my 10th year helping clients, so it's really actually a privilege to continue sharing some of these things with you, so you can start looking at what things you might need to put in place in order to really develop great quality sleep for many years to come. So thank you so much for actually being part of this journey with me. If you're brand new, then let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Beatrix Schmidt. I'm a sleep coach, a professional speaker, and the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program, which is very much my way of teaching and sharing all the different principles, all the different tools and techniques, the practicalities of things that will actually work in order to really overcome your long-term sleep problems and insomnia. So it's very much about really getting to those results that you desire. Now, if you haven't yet, then I would ask you to hit that subscribe button below, hit that little bell as well, so that I can keep in touch with you and let you know when I post new videos. And once you watch the video and you've enjoyed the content of the video, then hit that little like button below as well. That just really helps me to be able to reach more people with my videos on this YouTube channel. So let's turn our attention back to whether or not exercise actually can really help you. Regular exercise is something that is going to be very personal to you, whether or not you even enjoy it, whether or not you enjoy a particular type of exercise, and how the extent of your sleep problem has had an influence on it. So one client might actually be sleeping, let's say 5 or 6 hours, maybe disturbed, maybe it takes them a long time to fall asleep, but they actually have achieved something like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. That's very different than if you're struggling with more extreme or more sort of complex sleep problems and sleeping even less than 5 hours of sleep every night. The two situations will be incredibly different. So the first, I guess, word of warning is that what I'm going to share with you today has to put into the practicality of where you're at. I'm not going to be able to explore every single scenario and every single way to decide this, but it's really about being self-aware of where you're at. Please never self-diagnose, because sleep problems might look similar but might actually be caused by different things. So I always encourage people, especially if your sleep problems have been around for a longer period of time and you've tried a different bunch of things but they have not created consistent result, is to reach out and work with someone. Get that support from a practitioner who is practiced in the field. Obviously, this is what I do in my practice, but there's many other practitioners out there as well, depending on location and what specific support you might need. So that's always with any of my videos, that's the baseline. is please don't self-diagnose. It can actually hold you back from putting the right things in place that will actually create the results. So when it comes to regular exercise, often the first step is to actually understand where you are at with the extent of your sleep problems. If you are incredibly exhausted and you are exercising as well, what can that lead to is further exhaustion. Now, this idea and this myth that exhaustion is going to help you sleep better, in my practice, that's not actually the case. So when we look at does exercise or regular exercise help, there is this sub-myth that exhausting yourself by doing exercise or doing exercise late at night is going to result in better quality sleep. If you've put it in place, you probably already know the answer that it does not necessarily create consistent outcomes. If your sleep problems are quite severe and you then push yourself and exhaust yourself even more, what I found in my practice is that scenario can lead to your body going into survival mode. And often what that brings, especially when clients are more thinker types, is when your body is in survival mode, it can actually wake you up instead of helping you to fall asleep in an easy way and sleep through the night. Exhaustion and this idea of survival mode can put the body and the mind into a place where it's actually not going to allow you to rest because it wants to keep you moving forward and keep you awake enough to protect you. This is the simplest way to describe this in this particular scenario. And so what I found with clients like this, where the extent of the sleep problems are already causing exhaustion, is that pushing yourself is not the answer. Your body has to come down to some sort of stability, some sort of a calmness, physical, mental, emotional relaxation in order to be able to create more restorative sleep. Pushing over and physically exhausting yourself does not mean that that foundation of restorative sleep is going to be there. So in those kind of cases, what I suggest clients to do is actually take a step back and look at why they might be exercising. So let's say take a client who have struggled with more sort of severe sleep problems, but maybe they decided that for their mental health or their ability to keep motivating themselves, they might sign up for a half marathon. So this is the runner example. Now, if you're functioning on sleep that's 4 or 5 hours and maybe it's not very good quality either, pushing yourself to get the motivation to then exercise and to then train for something like a half marathon is not appropriate because your body's already not in a great place and you're just going to be continuing pushing it. And that can actually create a situation where your body is never actually learning to relax, because as soon as your body and your mind thinks it can relax, you then push over and make it work harder. So again, that's a simple way to describe that. So in that situation, I'm not saying you need to give up on your desire to run a half marathon. That's not about that. It's to respect where you're at. So my suggestion in that case is, if your sleep problems have been around for a long period of time, you need to address that first before you push yourself with the training. If you push yourself from an exhausted place, often you end up with more injuries and often more frequently because your body simply isn't able to recover from heavy exercise or extended exercise. So in that case, my suggestion is to push back the date of your half marathon, for example, at a later date. Work on your sleep problems so that you can really teach the body and the mind to relax physically, emotionally, and mentally, so that you can sleep more and sleep better, so that you actually have more energy to even motivate yourself. So the interesting thing with motivation is that when we feel like we have more energy, we don't need to motivate ourselves as much because naturally we have the energy to feel emotionally positive to then actually look at something that we want to do. So even when it comes to the mindset of training, when you come from a more refreshed place, it is going to be easier to get yourself running sustainably and training properly. So the first step is sorting out your sleep problems. The next step is not to give up on training, but to scale it back. So when you're preparing, let's say, for a half marathon, you will have a breakdown of training by what date or week you have to achieve what. But if you push back the date, that allows you to actually build it up in a smaller and more sustainable way without exhausting yourself. So take it slower. Instead of running at full speed or pushing yourself, look at actually more sustainable running, slower running, more grounded way of running. What I mean by that is actually your position is more relaxed rather than lean forward and run for your life. The way you run can actually contribute to this version of relaxation. The way your mindset is can contribute to the actual relaxation you feel when you actually get to bed. So this is one example. Another example can be where you have a specific weight goal. So these are often the two different things that I see in my practice. And often the weight goal can actually come from the fact that if you've been struggling for a longer period of time with sleep problems, you might have actually gained some weight, because naturally that's what the body tends to do when you have had to scale back on exercise because you don't have the energy. So this is the version when you're not pushing yourself, but it has now resulted into something else, something like a weight gain. I always say to my clients, regular, lower intensity, and in a way nicer exercise can actually contribute to your relaxation. This is not about pushing yourself over. This is about doing something that actually works with where you are at and honoring that you are currently struggling. So I'll give you my example. Now, I never liked running, so the marathon running is not my thing. But I always believe that regular exercise can actually support our body to be in a healthy place, not just directly linked to better sleep, but actually to be healthier. Therefore, when you're healthier, it will result in better sleep because your body is in a healthier place and therefore can create better quality sleep naturally. So my version is that I, over the years, figure out what is the level of intensity and what is the type of exercise that actually are more enjoyable, that I can commit to in a sustainable way. So as an example, I work from home, which means that unless I make an effort, I might not leave the house. And obviously, over the years, I've learned to make that effort. So every single day, I walk for about 45 minutes. Generally, it's not less than 45 minutes unless I feel unwell, but I walk instead of run. And when I used to struggle with insomnia, what really helped me is to scale back the exercise, but do something that made me feel like I am moving forward. So this is this opposite to pushing over. Do it because it will help you to keep yourself in a healthier place, but scale it back and maybe look at the frequency. So instead of, let's say, in my example, let's say 45 minutes, if you are more exhausted, then what I would say, start with 20 minutes. It's better to go for a walk for 20 minutes, 4 out of 7 days, than push over and exhaust yourself, and that will create something else. So it's better to really start building your stamina up, start building up the regularity, and commit to yourself that way, but without the pushing over. The other thing I recently shared with a client, which links to this as well, when we're tired and we exercise, we often actually exercise a more straining way. So when we're tired, we might actually lift our shoulders and hunch. We might actually keep our mouth open and breathe through our mouth. Now, when you tweak these things, and let's say you close your mouth and you actually stand up straighter in a more relaxed way as you walk, you're actually gonna train your muscles to be relaxed in different ways. and it will help you to breathe properly. So if you close your mouth, it will help you to breathe properly and actually recognize when you're pushing yourself too much. So you would have noticed this as well. When you're walking too fast and you're too tired, what tends to happen is you lean forward and you actually open your mouth and catch your breath because you're out of breath. But when you close your mouth, you're actually going to notice when you have elevated the intensity too high, because that is the moment when you're going to open your mouth and want to start breathing faster. So take a moment to maybe pause, stop walking, gather yourself again. This will encourage relaxation, and then start again. So these are two different ways that you can look at. Does regular exercise actually help you overcome long-term insomnia or sleep problems? You will have your version. So what's important is not to push over for the sake of improving your sleep. That is what the myth part is. Regular exercise on its own does not sort out every single sub-layer of a complex sleep problem that has been around for a long period of time. It's one puzzle piece. But sometimes that puzzle piece can actually be a negative influence, not a positive one. So the question is very much often tailored around what the client's experience is, and the answer therefore is catered around what the client's experience is. So there's no yes and no answer here. It is a myth. It doesn't work for everyone, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be helpful in developing better quality sleep. But often it's a very much just a physically driven tip. If your sleep dynamics and sleep problems, the root cause of it is more emotions and maybe overthinking, that's not matching, because this would be a physical application of a tip. So again, whether or not the root cause of the problem is appropriate is this other version here. So I hope this video has helped you to untangle this myth for yourself. It doesn't work that exact way for every single person. Sometimes we got to look at it in a different way and really cater it for the person so they can actually make that more informed decision of how to integrate regular exercise and whether or not it's even applicable for them. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. We are going to be debunking more of these myths in the coming weeks. And if you've got any specific thing you want me to discuss, you're very welcome to pop them in the comments. There are plenty of myths I come across in my practice, so we'll have enough to cover for the coming weeks, I'm sure. But also, think about these things practically. Whether this is this myth or anything else, any tip or advice, practicality is really going to help you to make that difference. So thank you so much. Come and join my community, whether that's the email or subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you like this video, hit that like button below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.